Our first speaker in Act Two is Mr. Richard Nesbit. Welcome, Richard.
You may be wondering why this very Nordic-looking European white man is wearing an African daishiki. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 of whiteness, I'm probably like 8.5. Okay, or maybe 9. But this is not cultural appropriation. A lot of people think that wearing something of another culture, you're taking away from their culture and you're insulting them. But in my case, the insult would be if I didn't wear it. Now, there's a story behind this, and I'm going to start from 11 years ago where the story begins. I was working in a restaurant on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It was one of those restaurants, it was like a celebrity place and a neighborhood place. We had people like Steven Spielberg come in, anybody from Julie Andrews and Al Roker to Fran Drescher. It was those kind of people. And it was neighborhood people too. Actually, Jules was there once. Jules ate there. And I had just finished a very, very rough waiter shift one night. I came home, we made good money, I felt satisfied, I felt tired, I was really ready to go to sleep. But I got this unusual message in my Facebook Messenger folder. And I didn't recognize the person. He was a refugee from the South Sudan. Now, his story really went straight to my heart. He had watched his village be burnt to the ground by rebels. He had seen schoolmates murdered. His own father was murdered. They tried to recruit him into their fighting force, but he escaped. He and his mother escaped the burning village. They stayed on the banks of the Nile for days and eventually were taken down to Uganda by a group of people from the UN. So he was living in a refugee camp, and his story, it just affected me in a way that I couldn't let go of it, and especially the fact that all he wanted to do was to finish his high school education. He didn't want anything more than that. He wasn't looking for money. He wasn't looking for a handout. He wanted to finish his high school education, and I thought to myself, it wouldn't be that hard for me to do that. It wouldn't take much from my life, but it would mean a world of difference for him. So I went to a friend of mine who had a scholarship program for kids in Tanzania, and I asked her if she could help the young man, and she said that she couldn't, that wasn't really in her area, and she just said to me something that hit me in a way that it just struck me in a very unusual, impactful way. She said, "Don't be afraid to say no. They're used to hearing no." So I thought, I don't want to be the one to say no. I want to say yes. And my gears started to turn, but then she came back to me and she said, "You know something? I have a friend that I met in Uganda. I went to language school with him. His name is Father Godwin, and he is from Uganda. Maybe he will visit the boy." Well, in fact, he did. He visited the boy. He went to the refugee camp. He drove 6 hours to get there. He said that he needed to go to school, that his story was legitimate, and I took a chance. I did a GoFundMe and raised $1,000 in about 48 hours. So this was very fulfilling. And it made me happy to know that I was changing this kid's life. We sent the money to the school. We enrolled him. He became a very good student. And then Father Godwin said to me, "You know something? We have a young lady that lost her parents in Rwanda, and she's living with her uncle, and she wants to go to school. Do you have any more money?" And then he came back to me and he said, "We have this young boy that was abused by his uncle, and his mother is poverty-stricken, and they live in the slums, and he wants to go to school." The next thing you know, we started taking on more and more students, and it became a point where I thought, okay, all right, I'm getting to retirement age. Maybe this is the next season of my life. So I took a chance. I formed a 501c3. I put it together. I took my first trip to Africa, which I had never been to before. I didn't know where I was going to stay. I figured Father Godwin would have me stay at his monastery, but I wasn't really completely sure. But I took the chance. I went. I got there. And it turned out to be a remarkable experience. It's a land that I'm the type of person that a vacation to me is art and music and food and architecture, sitting in a cafe. I never thought I would find Africa to be a place of interest. But it turned out that Africa is where my heart is. Uganda, my heart goes there. I look forward to the dusty streets and the young toddlers, fresh from being a toddler, drawing water, no running water in their houses, no electricity. You think to yourself, how can you find pleasure in a world like that? But there's something about being with a Ugandan. Their attention span is different than ours. When you're with them, they're with you. You're with them. There's no looking at the phone. There's no looking at the watch. There's not any kind of concern about where they have to be. So it's one of those things where I know that I have done the right thing with my life by involving myself in starting a nonprofit. And to this date, we've had 12 graduations, and we have about 13 students in high school and in college and in trade schools, and many of them have gone on to have very lucrative jobs, and some of them have gone on to help their communities and send their brothers and sisters to school. So there's been a real ripple effect from this, and taking that initial chance to send that first kid to school was probably the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Thank you.